All right, what is going on? How is everybody doing today? Happy Monday morning. It is it's beautiful Sunday afternoon as I record this. And so this is going to be dropping. I'm going to have to get this edited up, chopped up real quick, and dropping it for you guys tonight so that it's up for the morning. But hope that you guys are doing well. Welcome to the Risen Fallen Podcast. I am your host, Mark Henriksen. And if you're brand new to this show, then what you can expect is open and authentic conversations about things like mental health, self-development, and how to get your life moving in the right direction. If you're not feeling good about where you are right now, at least having the confidence that you're moving, one step closer every single day. And if you're not new to this, then thank you very much for coming back and supporting the show, supporting the cause, supporting the journey, and supporting the idea of, like we said, making yourself 1% better every single day, and along the way, lifting other people up as well. And so I hope you guys are doing well. And I think we can just start off with your expectations and what you can expect. And that was kind of what we covered in the intro. And for a while, for the last probably, 3-4 years, a couple years now, I've been doing this thing. I've been just dropping kind of episodes every single, every Monday, every Thursday. I think the schedule has changed a little bit here and there, but for the past 4 years, I've been uploading twice every week. And when I'm not doing interviews, I've been uploading a lot of solo episodes and kind of just doing these little solo rants where I just sit here at my desk and talk to my phone and then throw it up for you guys so you guys can kind of hear my thought process and how I kind of, try and take the best out of what happens to me in my life. And the reason I was doing that is because I thought that those kind of personal stories and kind of, sometimes you got to let it cool off for a little bit and then you can talk about it. But I just felt like that was kind of a way to throw up some content and be able to share kind of the way I was feeling and how I was overcoming or failing to overcome, and then trying to learn from that, from the obstacles that I face in my life. And, I really enjoy doing that, and I enjoy the feedback that I get when people come and, they say hey, this is something that I relate to. This happened to me in my life. I'm glad you spoke about this. Nobody else really, I wasn't really thinking about it or talking about it, but it was always in the back of my mind. And now that I've heard it put into words, I kind of understand my own thoughts better. And those types of messages, when I would get those on social media, would kind of keep me going with that routine. And I found myself basically in that routine. I was just in the routine of okay, every weekend we record a couple episodes. And then it was just all right, let's upload those episodes. And it was just this kind of monotonous routine of just Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings or would be my recording time. And I would just set some time aside to sit down here and chat about, what I was going through. A lot of the times it was just kind of flipping through my journal, being what happened to me this week? What happened to me last week? Or what, what's been bothering me, or what's something I'm stoked about. And so it got kind of easy for me to just pump out these types of episodes. And it kind of, I felt after a while, and it wasn't even my own thoughts. And, it was kind of, we were talking about filtering input recently. And, when people give you input on what you're doing in your life and why you're doing it and how you're doing it, and when sometimes that's something that you should neglect, or not neglect, but sometimes it's yeah, okay, 10-4, I got it, I heard your message, I'm gonna put that in my back pocket because there might be some unforeseen circumstances that they don't know about, or whatever it could be. But you're just okay, that doesn't really apply to what I'm going through right now. It's not really helping me with my problem. And then there's other times where people give you feedback or input. And, if you're somebody like me who's very stubborn and very hard-headed, at first you go like, well, fuck, that doesn't apply to me. Like that, there's no way. You kind of maybe look at it and you're like, he doesn't really understand, or they don't really understand, or whatever it is. And then, you get to thinking and you're like, maybe I should kind of put into play. And so I had a friend of mine reach out to me and was like, hey, like, you've been doing this podcast for a long time, but I've noticed that you've kind of been drifting away from what you really wanted to do in the very beginning, which for me, as you guys know, I'm very talkative. I love conversation. And that was the main reason I started this podcast. When I first started it, it was like I was trying to mainly do interviews. And so the solo content I was doing was just kind of like, I'll throw this up and hopefully like it catches more attention if I can just throw these up in the meantime. But it almost became a distraction from the main point. It was kind of like focusing on getting like the best pair of running shoes instead of actually just like running. That's kind of like the best way to put it in my eyes. And so the reason I'm going on about all this is because I've decided that I'm going to try and shift mainly to interviews, which means, I'm going to have to be doing interviews more often. It's basically going to be like the schedule will be changing a little bit. We're going to be shifting to, I think for now, we're going to do exclusively Monday mornings. Episodes will drop, and every single week we'll drop a new interview. And so I think that shifting from doing less quantity of episodes will probably help me be able to up the quality a little bit for you guys as well and make it a little bit more enjoyable. And so that's kind of one of the things that I'm going to be trying to focus on, is trying to up the quality of these things for you guys, as well as just allowing a little bit more focus time on, obviously, like these longer episodes take longer to edit. So it'll be a cool transition. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this transition as much as I'm looking forward to it, because I think shifting exclusively to interviews for a while, I mean, obviously, if I have something that I want to talk about or share or anything like that, I'm obviously going to drop my thoughts whenever I feel like it's necessary. But I think, I think mainly shifting to interview-based episodes for me is going to kind of relight that fire and re-engage me with kind of the reason I started this whole thing in the first place, which was to have open and honest conversations with people and kind of just share different viewpoints on, this is what I went through and this is how I've overcome it and this is how I view it. And, and I think that getting more of a variety of input will add a little bit more benefit for people that are listening. And so I hope that you guys are able to get along with that. But I just think, looking at this, kind of, there's a lesson in and of itself, because if you are somebody that's very like, goal oriented and stubborn and kind of, just kind of like, you guys know what I mean. Like when you're just kind of hard headed and you can't really be told what to do or how to do it. Like you just kind of have your own method and you're just very like, OCD or controlling, whatever it is. A lot of the times if you're like that, it's very easy to get stuck in a routine that you're used to doing because you're just doing it. And sometimes when we're doing that, it can be beneficial, because if the routine and everything that you're doing within that routine, all those behaviors, those habits, if all of those things are geared towards what you're aiming towards, then it's good that you're stuck in that routine, because all of the things that you're doing are going to get you closer to where you're aiming, which is pretty fucking easy to figure out. And so the only problem lies when you have things that are within your routine that are just kind of, maybe they were helping in the beginning, but then they start to shift and maybe your energy input, your time or your effort would be used better if you changed that routine, if you knew when to kind of pivot your focus and just kind of shift your aim somewhere else. And sometimes we have to look at the routines that we have and really look at them and analyze, like, is this really serving its purpose anymore? Did it before? Was it successful at serving its purpose? Or is this a behavior or a habit that I'm going to have to maybe just make a pivot? Like I said, it's like doing these shifts of focus and direction are never like it should never feel like, oh, I'm just like kind of like giving up on something. It's like, well, you probably should if it's not fucking working. And so that's something that I need to remind myself a lot of the time, because I can be so rigid, because I can be, and even after having people tell me these things and reading books about like kind of having a little bit more of an open mind and taking in other people's ideas and opinions when they don't necessarily always align with yours, it's like I struggle with it a lot. So when I find myself being too rigid in a routine and thinking like, is this actually serving me? Or like, maybe I should listen to the other people in my life. For me, that's an important lesson. And maybe you guys kind of can, because I just feel like sometimes we just get stuck in these routines and we're just doing a bunch of shit. And I think a lot of us, like, whether we know it or not, we become a little bit more like resentful about having to do some of the things that we have in our routine. And I think like, obviously, I speak about it all the time. There's always going to be shit that you have to do that you're not going to love. Even when you're pursuing your dreams, people think that it's just always fucking sunshines and rainbows and passion. But like, even if we all know there's going to be shit in your life that you're going to have to do that, whether it's filing for taxes because you run your own business, because you wanted the freedom, but you still have to do that fucking paperwork. Like all those little things, there's always going to be things that you have to do that you don't enjoy to do. But I think that what we can do for ourselves that could be like very beneficial is to refocus on the things that we actually love, the things that we actually enjoy to do. One of the best examples of this is like, look, we all have to exercise. We all have to work out. We all have to move our body and push ourselves a little bit. You can say, okay, maybe we don't have to, but your life will dramatically improve when you start to. So one of the things that a lot of people, do is they think they have to do like a certain type of thing. Like they're like, oh, I have to go to the gym and lift some weights. So I have to start running or biking or doing yoga or like whatever it is their friend group does. They're like, dude, you got to try this. We all have to do the exercise, but you can focus on doing it in a way that you enjoy it. You like, if you're a spin class person, do the spin class. Like, don't force yourself to do yoga. Don't force yourself to do shit that you don't want to do, because it's going to make you associate this thing, which is doing something that's good for you, with something that you fucking hate. And so, like I said, obviously, there's a lot of things that you're going to have to do that you don't enjoy. But if you can tailor, I don't know, some of the things, or even like half the things, and if you're really lucky, like most of the things, if you can tailor most of the things that you do, like willingly in a day to make yourself, feel good, if you can shift those things into things that you love, like your exercise, okay, well, maybe you can attend like a community soccer fucking team or something like that. Like there's an hour of fucking exercise, like, like little things like that. Like, it's not always like a cookie cutter, one size fit all. And I think that we all have to kind of find the cookie cutter that we like, the shape of the cookie that we want to be in. Maybe. I think maybe that's not a good one. Maybe, I just kind of think that maybe you don't even want to be a cookie. Maybe you want to be like a croissant, like a croissant. Maybe you want to be, and everybody's telling you that you got to do this one thing, and you're like, well, I just don't fucking like it. I don't want to fucking do it. I don't want to, for some people, they're like, hey, I don't want to fucking read this book. I don't want to read, I don't want to read it. And it's like, well, maybe you could associate it with, actually, maybe that's not a good example either. But anyways, I think you guys get the point. Maybe I'll move on. But just kind of, I guess what the better way to say what I'm trying to say is just trying to think about why you're doing, what you're doing. Like why, like the purpose behind your routine. Like the intentionality of like, okay, are you just like showing up every single day just like just to fucking check a box off? Like just to tick the boxes? Or are you purposely and intentionally doing these things of like, yes, this is something that I enjoy to do. It it makes me a better person. It makes me a happier person. It makes me more patient because I can relax a little bit more. It makes me in better shape. It makes me feel more confident. It makes me feel good. And I think it's very easy to differentiate for us. It's really easy for us to trick ourselves, but it's also pretty easy to differentiate. Like, this is something that's honestly going to make me happier and put me in a better position in life versus the things that are just instant gratifications of like, oh, if I get these new shoes, I'm going to look fucking cool and feel more confident. More about like, I want to be able to feel more confident without those things. That should be the goal. And so, yeah, I hope that that kind of helps you guys kind of see where I'm at. And I think that that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. I just hope that you guys are able to analyze your own routines and analyze the things that you do on a daily basis and try and think about, like, is this actually serving its purpose? Is this actually getting me closer to where I want to be? And is it something that I actually love to do? Or am I just making myself miserable every fucking day, just by forcing myself to do these things? And again, there's something to be said about doing that. Like, I'm obviously a huge supporter and proponent of like starting the day off with something that you don't enjoy doing because it's going to make the rest of the day easier. Like, this morning I woke up, first thing, I was fucking tired. I was kind of like a little bit groggy. And I'm like, fuck, all right, let's get moving around. I go for a little walk and then just jog around the park. Like, just go for a little run. Like, do something that, like, if that's the, if you can make it so that the shittiest thing you do every single day is something that you comply with, something that you like willingly do, then the rest of your day, you're kind of just thinking like, yeah, there's not really much that can bother me. Like, I've already done the worst thing possible for myself today. But then not every other thing in your day has to be fucking miserable. Like, you're just going to be living this like zombie miserable life. Like, try and find a fucking job that you can feel good about the work that you do, making something beautiful or making something a little bit better in society, and I know that that's not as easy as everybody, it's a fucking tough economy out there, but when it comes to your hobbies, when it comes to your exercise, when it comes to your nutrition, the same thing goes with nutrition. There's a lot of people out there, and I do this to myself all the time, just like out of routine, where it's like you're eating the same fucking foods all the time because you're just like, oh, this is healthy for me, so I'll just eat this all the time because I feel good, so I'll just repeat it every day. Like, that's literally how robotic and stubborn I can be sometimes. And then, we completely lock ourselves out from like, oh, I could try like this recipe. Oh, I could try that recipe. And then instantly, someone like me is like, oh, but that would require having to think about the ingredients and then going and buying different ingredients. But it's like, maybe that little bit of effort is enough to, spice up your nutrition and change it up a little bit enough so that when it comes time to the decision making of like, am I going to have a cheat meal or not? You're like, well, the fucking stuff that I eat is always different and new and tasty. And, I think that a lot of the time when we get so rigid and stuck in these routines, we lock ourselves out. And again, this is mostly a message for myself more than it is for anybody else, but we get so rigid in these routines and we lock ourselves out from discovering that, it's easier sometimes when we start to go with the flow and to try new things and experiment. And sometimes just continuing to do things the way that you've done them forever isn't always the best method. Sometimes things change. Sometimes there's new innovation. Sometimes there's a lot of different moving parts in society. And so, of course, some things that we've done for a long time, there's a reason why we do them, like moving our bodies and eating healthy food and sleeping 8 hours a day. Like, we've always done it and it's always worked. So we're going to keep doing it. But there's a lot of things where it's like, okay, we've always done this, but it makes no sense and no one can really explain it. So like, why are we really doing this? Is this really beneficial for us like we're being told? And so, maybe it's something small scale in your life. Maybe it's something huge. And I think that hopefully you can kind of analyze that, look at it and see where you need to pivot, see where you need to shift your focus. Different areas of your life are going to need different amounts of attention or energy at different times of your life. And so on that note, I think that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. I will, like I said, we're switching to once a week. And so give me a little bit of time here. Give me some grace. I will be dropping an episode on Monday, an interview with one of the most impactful guests that we've had on this show with my boy Hussein. And so we'll have that ready for you on Monday. Much love. Peace out, you beautiful fucking human beings. Thank you all. I love you. Bye.